Hey everyone, this is the first stream of me and Tammy catching up after the first day of work on Cashflow. Tammy put all of the kind of groundwork, the rocks underneath the foundation of this home that we're building. So it starts a little bit into it because I forgot to hit record, but you'll just get a walkthrough and conversations about various parts of theme.json, how we chose font sizes, how we think about colors, and open-ended items that we're going to be working on in our next stream.
You probably need to decide whether you want custom things on. So I've left a lot of like the custom font sizes. A lot of it's on. I'll show you in the editor. A lot of it's on, and it's kind of
Perfect.
like it's good to have it all on and then pare it back. But things like default duotones, default gradients, and default palettes, honestly, I would probably have them off and then do your own custom ones. So I did those off. I gave you a duotone based on the theme that I found, and a mono duotone, which just means it can make everything black and white, little images,
Perfect.
and then a gradient based on the orangey color, for want of a better term, that I found.
Yes.
I went in your functions.php and tried to pull out the best I could from the default theme
Perfect.
that I found. And that's what this palette is. It's not probably everything, but it's yeah, we can see it. Pull out the layout. I don't know if that's what you want the layout to be, but that was what was in the members theme, so I pulled it through.
Okay.
Spacing, we can get onto this. If you just put 7 in here, it will do default, and we can see what it's done with that.
Okay.
So, and what you can do with that link that I shared, you can then call out specific fixed ones. So if there's something like that you want to do, but it means you literally have the 7 steps that you can use, and you know what the scale is. It was what you were calling anyway, more or less.
More or less
Um,
the plan. Yeah.
yeah, so I picked 2 fonts, we can always change them. I picked, one that had a sans and one that had a serif, and it's kind of up to did I manage to copy them twice? I think I did, like some weirdo. No, I copied the 2 regs, right? You know, when you've been staring at a file for, like, about 6 hours. So I think that might be our best plan for the first default one is pick like a sans and a serif. So I picked
Yes.
this one. I have to keep this one. And also you mentioned 2 default as system ones, so I picked these 2 system ones, which is what kind of you had. Font sizes. This is where we're probably going to have some discussion because it gets really macro. And I'll show you what this looks like in the picker. But we probably don't want the picker, it beautifully goes T-shirt sizes into I think it's over, like, 5 or 6, and then it has this horrible drop down, which
Okay.
I just yeah, so maybe we can reduce those.
I mean,
Um
the reason to reduce them is because, like, people can always go and edit and add their own, but the more that we control, the better looking sites people create
yeah,
at the end of the
yeah.
day. Yeah.
Yes. And you also can do but on the block, so what you could do is, like, times 2, or you can do things like that in the JSON file, so you can
Okay.
do variable changes.
Yeah. Like
Um
calculations or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, so you
Okay.
can do that. I brought the color, the background and text through, and I did the elements through. These are, of course, me not spelling that. I always do that with at least one of them for some reason. There's always a spelling mistake there, and I always miss like a paragraph. I can guarantee if you're going to have a spelling mistake somewhere. Um,
We'll find it.
and and it also doesn't something JSON parsing is amazing, and others, it just would not have picked that up, which is like, "Great, thank you," because it's a variable
Mhm.
name. Um, I also put a link, so I've given us a hover and a basic and set it to underline. We can
Perfect.
decide whether we have the underline on hover or not.
I want it on
Um,
all the time. I
cool.
think.
I
Oh,
put it
you
I
want it
can
to like hide on hover, you think?
at the moment, I put text saturation on hover, but it seems to be on for all of them, so I'm
Yeah.
not sure this value is currently working.
Yeah.
Um, I thought it
You
did,
want it to
but
be
I don't think it is.
underlined and acceptable. Keep them underlined.
Cool. So I can actually remove this, and then see if it doesn't work. We can
Default.
then put it at the top level. Um, Shadow, I set presets. So there are preset shadows,
Great.
and I pulled those through. We can also do declared shadows as well. but it's kind of just nice to have those in. Typography, I pulled in the font family, and the preset, and then the line height as well.
Okay.
So that's just the basics. I'm gonna say that. And I didn't do anything there. Didn't do fonts. Oh, I did give us two basic. And I'm gonna kind of look at the edge of it, two really basic block styles. They're the same block style. Spoiler, if spot the difference, there's none. Just because there there could be an easy way of doing this, but I'm not sure how much you're gonna scale, and this is kind of the question with block styles. If you're gonna have lots and lots, then having a folder and parsing it and doing all of that kind of makes sense.
Okay.
But if you're just gonna do it like 2024 did it, and I just realized that I
Oh yeah.
completely did not do the
I do that too.
trying to do it absolutely correctly for you, how
There.
2024 do
Perfect.
it, and didn't do it. Um, uh,
So people can add new can they add block styles through the site editor of their own native or no? There's no
no,
GUI for that yet. Okay.
no, no, you can add, well, so yes, because you could do it through the styles itself, so you could do it on the block. So if you go back to the
Yes. Okay. Change the default for like
Yeah, so
block quote.
here in styles, what you could do is on a block, set it specifically for what you wanted to do, but you wouldn't be able to then have it to select. It would just select
Okay.
the full one, if that made sense.
Yeah, it wouldn't
You
be
can
like
do
a
it on
choice in the styles. Okay.
it's just yeah, it's just like a local one. But I can see this scaling for you. There's other ways. There's a link. Diego looked at and this is like how scaled it can go. You can have like a parser that parses a folder that has
Yeah.
each core ones and all those kind of things. I backed right out of that when I was doing that because I was just like, this is getting way too over complex. And you know, when you're
Yes.
just like over complicating it. So
Add it
I've gone
later.
for this. Yeah. So I went for this simpler way that 2024 is doing it. I tend to not always do the inline. I tend to do the JavaScript way, but I don't
Okay.
even think the JavaScript way you need at the moment.
Okay.
Um, and I think if your theme, the whole point is people are going to, this is what I've been wrestling the past like hour and a bit if people are gonna be using this theme to learn from as well, which I think that's part of this theme is gonna be released, if you've then, like, got JavaScript they've gotta learn and then thing they've gotta
Mhm.
learn as well as using the block theme, I don't know where we wanna not have the learning curve. Um,
Yeah.
so I felt I was adding lots of learning curves, and this feels not a learning curve,
No,
because it
yeah. And
does
what
because I copied it like, it's exactly what 2024 do.
yeah,
So the documentation's there. Um, so that's where I am with that is if we
perfect.
can, for the
What I
function
like about
stuff,
the
be as
PHP way
nice.
also is I can give someone like a code snippet, add
Yes.
and register a style and it'll mirror the theme. But,
Yes.
that'll if they're like, I really want it to look like this, I'm like, here's your block style snippet.
Yeah. The downside of this is that really the way that you do it in JavaScript is beautifully elegant, and it really, really is. It's just like a couple of lines, and
Mhm.
it is really beautiful. And the way that you include the assets is also super beautiful, but I- it's not in line and it doesn't have things. But I honestly think for your thing, this is probably the best way. So
Perfect.
let's try this way, and then we can kind of scale it. So what I've done here is I've pulled the natural. Not sure what a natural shadow is, but yeah,
Mhm.
it's a style of shadow. And I think I listed, but if not, I can the default
Oh, I see it
shadows,
there. Okay.
and you can see them. Um, so this is what that looks like. It's not the final one, but I'm just pulling it through as a this is what
No,
you could have. So
perfect.
if you kind of can see. A curious thing about Block, which I think is because of the pagination, is if you look, I actually have padding 20, but it seems to only be in the
It
top and the
doesn't wanna
bottom and
do
not
it. Yeah.
no, but I think it's because it's got the pagination inside it, and I think that that's been, like, forcing itself out.
Loading the container. Okay.
Yeah, so I think because it's also because that is the justifications and things, so I think group lot's gonna be a little bit more common. We may also need to set, like, some margins at the same time, so we're gonna have to
Okay.
experiment with that one. But we have both of them separate, so we can do that.
Okay.
Um, so I did it on column, not columns. So that would be individual ones, not the whole thing.
Okay.
It's whether one you want it on, whether you want it on the whole of the columns or individuals. Um, as well. But this is how technically you can add it. Not complete.
Mhm.
From a style perspective, which is kind of cool, like easy.
Mhm.
You've got fonts. We've got them set. This is where the scaling got a little bit out of control. Extra,
Yeah.
extra, like large. Because t-shirt sizes really work. They just don't. The other thing is this is like if 16 is like 16, 18 is the font size for accessibility, and then we go like down to like 13, 14.
Probably the smallest you wanna go.
Yeah. So my recommendation probably would be our small is 1 rem, and then we kinda go
Okay.
up from there. Um, and then we drop a couple of, like, the steps in between, and then the benefit of that would be rather than having that kind of rather than having this kind of scale, you'd get what you get with, let me just change the themes and show you what you get with 2024, which I actually think is just a lot neater for people. If you need font sizes, you need font sizes, but I think when people come to pick it, having this,
Mhm.
it's just easier for them. They're just like,
Yeah.
"Boom, I kinda pick
Does
it," and
with that
then
scale, is medium like, paragraph font is medium in that, or is
yeah,
paragraph font
so
small? Okay.
2024 has, and I've kind of had it up to show you, duh, 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 duh. So it does extra things. So I wanted to also show you what it does to have unique ones. So it
Okay.
does things like this to bring in
Uh,
the font size for H4. So we still can
okay.
do some fancy stuff. It doesn't have to be that we're like, "Oh my goodness, we are stuck with font size." No, we're not. We could be unique for a couple of them.
So
Um,
when people
so
go
what
to the styles, typography, headings, H4, and see that font size, will that one just be an editor, not a picker? That'll just be like a field
yeah,
then, right? Okay.
well, that would be in, so you see the headings here. So
Mhm.
you'd be able to browse them here, and then it would show like this size here.
So they'd
Um,
have to
so it's
they
not
can't, like,
select yeah.
get a selected one. Gotcha.
Very custom. The only thing that I don't like about that, which you're rightly calling out, is it doesn't pre-populate the custom value,
Yeah.
which I find a little bit, ugh, because I'm like, "Guess the value."
Isn't it? It
Um,
doesn't. It's probably something.
well, the system knows the value because
Yeah.
it's sat happily here, but because that doesn't talk to that, you don't get it through. So at some point that will probably happen, but
Yeah. I'm sure
because it
Core will
knows
fix
it
that.
here, it's
Yeah.
pulling it through here. But because it knows it here, but because it doesn't know it here, it doesn't pull it through. So that's the only bad
Yeah.
that you get doing that. But if you really want to do a custom, that's nice. But you just get that kind of nice
I like that
thing
better.
for
I think
heading.
people don't want to see, like, I don't wanna have to educate people what EMs, REMs, and PICs and, people know small,
And
medium,
also
large,
extra,
extra
extra,
large.
extra, extra large and
So
things
we
like
could say, like,
that. It's
5XL or something, right? Or
you
3XL?
can, but yeah, it gets a
Still
little
weird.
bit,
Not
yeah, but
inflatable,
you
I don't
are
know.
s so you are saying, in the value so this is the long name, but then
Mhm.
it outputs on it and then the slug. So, I
Okay.
mean, I think because of how tight they are as well, I probably wouldn't have as many because some
Yeah.
of them start where they finish as well. So, it's just which ones we get rid of, I guess, and
Okay.
where do we start? That would be my kind of
Perfect.
point, and then,
I like
so does it have
body
to be
font
now?
as, like, an 18 pixel, like you said, so that's our one
Yeah. So
REM,
that would
and then
be here. This would start at
medium.
the medium,
Yeah.
uh, and then no, this would be this. So this would be that's currently small. Um, is one. So this would be medium. So these are correct now,
Yeah, is it always on a basis like, it resets to 16 pixel? Is that what it roughly
roughly.
does? Okay. When it
We're roughly setting here because we also don't do a
okay,
base declaration, which technically
okay.
with a rem you would do a base declaration. Um, but we're doing fluid again.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, so yeah, it is not as precise, but it's more
Close
it's
to
easier to
18.
do. Yeah. So
Okay.
I used the pixel to rem conversion as well to try and get you as close as I could.
Okay.
Um, uh, which again, I'm converting you,
Yeah.
which is again, it doesn't help, but it means because where am I going? The link here. Because I'm trying to bring in because I'm trying to bring something more in like this, we don't necessarily need the fluid scale. We could just
Yeah.
on some of them we could say that it isn't fluid. So for the actual what 2024 does, which I think is probably quite a kind of not a bad idea for the body font. They do 1.045, which means it's not 16, it's kind of 18 inch,
Okay.
which is it's recommended to have 18
Yeah.
kind of as body fonts. So that's kind of right. And then it doesn't have anything below that to be fluid, which is probably quite
Okay.
sensible. And it's only above that which is fluid. So
I
that's
like
also
that.
something to consider. Yeah. So kind of doing this kind of approach is kind of nice as well. Do you want me to just copy that over for you?
Yeah, I like that. I think, um, we don't want it to scale below, even on mobile, anything accessible.
Do you want me to get rid of these ones then?
We're saying we'll have a small that's, like, a little around 16 and a medium that's, like, a little around like, a little under
Yeah.
16 and a medium that's a little around 18-ish.
So
Yeah, I like that.
18,
Yeah, get rid of
17.
the
Yeah.
smaller one. Yep.
Okay. And both of those are false fluids, so they
Okay.
don't move. And then we can
And
just
the line
work
height will
out
always be a consistent 1.7, I think I saw.
so the line height is
Mhm.
consistent, but then we can
Okay.
change it on the elements. So we can change
Okay.
it on the heading, and then we can change it on the paragraph as well,
Okay.
if you want to do that. Um, and then on the or block quote and different things to the default that you set as well.
Okay.
But and on these ones, there's 3 to play with, and we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I would probably say and these are really close, like 1.85 is really close to the so this is oh, okay, that's quite a jump. 1.85 to 2 point our jumps are like so probably doing something, uh I'm being brutal, but probably something like
I
that.
usually get 2.25, so that'll feel like 26? I don't know.
Kinda you kinda want 1 in the 20s, 1 in the
Yeah.
30s, and then 1 in the 40s.
Yeah.
40, 50s probably. Probably what you want.
Perfect.
But one of these 2 probably don't need this one. I'm gonna just be and then we can always scale it back.
Yeah. We can
And
change
that
it.
gives
Yeah.
you if you then save that,
So
we can always
we'll get
look.
5 pre-fill sizes. We get small to extra, extra large,
I
right?
can't
That's the
spell. Yep.
it's the end of the day on a Monday.
oh, it's all the extras,
Oh, yeah.
extra. It's the only problem with a theme JSON because it looks all the same. You start just looking at it, and it's
And then
like,
it's like doesn't
oh.
render and you're like, "Where's the comma?"
And also just like down here, you just get like, why are you? Oh, okay, it's a comma. That's what. And also here because then you have to like make the size is the one that. Oh, okay, right. And what are you rendering now? I think I have to reset you. Yes, I do. So it has gone here. If we go into it, let's see what we have. Okay, now we have typography, text, and now what do we have? No, we don't, do we? Do you want to refresh? Gonna show me what we have? Mm, no, because that wasn't what we have, is it? Yeah, ha! There
Oh,
we
good.
go.
Cool.
So now we have a dinky, less
Mhm.
dinky, oh, less dinky. Oh, hello. Oh, that needs better line height.
Yeah, those are really big.
So we might have to be explicit about why, like, or we might just not be so big on that one. And that's kind of something like over the next kind of few days, if you're like,
Mhm.
"Bleh,"
Yeah,
we can kind of get it back.
perfect.
I feel that that is a horrendous way of showcasing that. Anyway, I think it's one extra, isn't it? Yes, it's one extra. Not extra, extra. It's one
Oh, there
extra.
you go.
There we go. Okay, that's better. It should look less horrendous. I'm trying to like I was trying to work out whether it was huge or gigantic was the word rather than like because
Oh,
t-shirt sizes is small, medium, large, and I was like,
yeah,
oh, there should be a better word because it's just
there should be a
ridiculous.
better word.
Um. So yeah, on links we've got the palette. These two are really
Cool.
close. So I don't know if you want them both, but they were both in the palette.
Okay.
Um. These two, I didn't really know which was the text color. I
Okay.
presumed this one, but it could be this one. But that's 4-4, um,
That's
which
too
feels a little
light.
bit light.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I went with this one, but it's
Is that
quite
1 or
it's
2? Or is that blue?
that one, well, yeah, it's kind of a bluey black. It's kind of an
Kind of
ink.
blue black. Okay.
Is what I'm going with. That's number 4, which is 011935. So it's kind of an inky.
Okay.
Is that how I would go if I had to give it a name? I don't know what I give it a name. That one, contrast 3, this one.
What's your,
And then these
I'd love to hear your, color naming
so
theory
I
or
tend to go
direction.
with whatever the latest core is doing, just
Cool.
because, everybody has so
Uh,
many feelings and passions and, opinions. Uh, I want to not confuse everybody, and I know that the entry point will be something like this. We have contrast 3, 2. So what I tend to do is have your base, there could be more than one color of your base, which is generally your background colors, and
Perfect.
then your contrast, which generally is your text colors.
Perfect.
Or if you have dark mode, you would flip the base and the contrast. And then your accent are generally your links, your color, your styling colors. Um, I don't like primary, secondary, tertiary, quaternary, whatever, because I tend to get really ridiculous with that.
Okay.
Um, so I've found that accent 2, accent 3, contrast 2, 3 stops me
Perfect.
being ridiculous, and makes me group into function. But the problem with base and contrast can be if you then go for dark modes and they get
Right.
confusing. Or contrast doesn't necessarily mean text to people. So again, at least you're grouping by use. So the
That's
first
true.
ones are the backgrounds, if they are that. There's no right answer.
No, I know. I just wanted to pick one and use it, and I'm happy to adopt the one that you're laying out here. I think it's better
Yeah,
than primary. I was coming up with things like primary lighter, like all these variations, and I was like,
yeah, yeah. Honestly, like for a long, long time, I did the primary, secondary, tertiary, quaternary, and I ended up having to, like, have a Google bookmark of, like, what it goes up to past, like, 4 or 5 just to be able to
You're like, these aren't words.
know. It's sextenary or, s and then octonary and stuff,
Mm,
literally. It just gets ridiculous because you end up with that. So what I like about this is literally there's 3, and then you just append a 1 or 2 to it, but again, I don't think it's so good. We have got custom colors on here. Custom colors I have found can break at scale. I've
okay.
recently broken these on my own sites massively by using the editor's Dreamweaver. Um, if you I don't know what the number is, but if you just start adding them and just start using it to create your own custom palettes, eventually it stops recognizing them. I think in the last version of Gutenberg, it kind of fixes this ish. But on one of my sites, I've just got like 20 and it just is ridiculous. It doesn't make any sense which one's which. So you are opening yourself to people like me just being ridiculous. But also, I think if you have until you have styles, having that option to be able to add those colors kind of makes sense to
Will
people.
help people. Okay.
Again, you have one gradient. We probably want like a couple more gradients and a couple
Okay.
more custom things, just because people like that stuff.
Yeah.
As much as like we might not want it on by default. And I would say that the gradient and the duotone you're probably not going to use in many of your themes by default. But the reason I like duotone is simply to do with I don't know if you've done this much, but on images, have I got an image? I don't. Okay, no. Am I going to have an image? Do I have an image on this computer? I don't know. Let's see. Um, should have one in here. Okay, do I have an image? Hmm. Okay.
That you want to
Okay.
show.
No, I've recently changed my computer, so
Oh, okay.
I've gone on downgraded to a MacBook Air,
All right.
just for lightness, and therefore I've lost all my images. Oh, this will be a good one to mono. So this is the reason why I like this because oh, you're not going to work. Oh, great, awesome,
Oh,
thanks.
there. Yeah.
Okay, this don't work at the side. Oh no, it's styles.
Nice.
Ah, I always do that. I keep
Yeah, it
on
wasn't
thinking
the
this is
right
like a
channel.
faux world, yeah. Because then if you've got images that are all like super poor quality, I
Mm,
find that you can do this and then it instantly makes it look unified as a blog post.
what a hack.
Yeah. So that's why I actually recommend shipping a theme with a monotone. So I did this, but I did this based on your for I think I did the 444. If you like that ink color, we might use the ink color for it and as well and have like an inky. We could have like a
Okay.
orangey one as well. Um Duotones seem a fad, but this is like the use of duotones that nobody does that I think is the best use of duotones.
When they're good. When they're
Yeah.
done well.
Yes. Because otherwise they are a bit faddy. But this one is probably like the best one for them. So that's really where I
So
am. It
colors,
feels
um,
yeah.
what's your opinion since this is for membership sites for people using Payments Pro? The
Yeah.
theme itself is going to name colors for front end error, success, and warning messages. Would you
Mm.
recommend adding those as choosable colors? Because right now they look bad when you swap to like a dark that when your base becomes dark, there's these like really bright
Yeah.
error messages that could be more muted. It would be like 8 more
Mm.
colors probably because there's like a border text color and a background color of the contextual message.
Are they all different colors or can we base them on one color?
They're all pretty much different colors. We might be able to
Oh,
do a 8-digit hex to transform the text color to like a transparency, but that also gets funky on different bases. If someone sets their base to be like a beigey yellow, let's say, then when
yeah,
they
yeah.
overlay a blue message
Mm.
or a green success message, it just looks really awkward and brown.
Yeah, unless we're gonna auto change them, we've probably got to expose them to be able to give someone the ability to change them. Um,
We could,
which is
if we auto change them, we would just have to like like look at the base and do some math on it and say, oh, it's dark now. Like we
yeah.
think we're in dark mode. Flip there.
Yeah. Which could be nice for users because then you're not having to change those messages. Um, I wonder how many of people are forgetting to change them anyway.
Yeah,
Which is
most
probably
people.
quite yeah.
Or I'm wondering if there's a way to have colors named but not exposed. Like if we do
Could you use the default
styles,
colors that are already in WordPress? Could you if they're messaging colors because you do have access to all the WordPress colors variables.
are they loaded on the front end?
Can pull them through quite easily, yeah.
I have to see if I like them. It still wouldn't solve the
Yes.
problem of the
Yeah, so that might be
burning.
something I can kind of pull out some documentation on that.
Okay.
Let me kind of write down, pull out some documentation. But if you could pull up through some of those kind of colors and also the Gutenberg colors, you have access to variables.
Yeah.
If you have access to all of those and you don't need to expose them, that might
Yeah.
kind of make
Can we name colors
um
in theme.json that we don't show here?
yes, you can just as you
Like
do
hidden colors?
here. Yeah, so you can do just a hex value.
Hmm.
And you can also do like WP, or you can pull specific colors in as well. So you can pull
Okay.
system colors in.
Okay.
Um,
So I wonder with those, we could, if we had style or what, no, what are they called? They're called styles, right? Like schemes? No, what are they called?
Style variations.
Style variations that chose different, like let's say we had a style variation that had a base that was blackish. Could
Mm,
that, if that just named different colors for
yes,
the textual
100%. So
messages that were
you
hidden,
can have a dark style variation that can basically just have for that thing the
secret
changes.
colors. Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Secret hidden colors. I haven't. It's been a long time since I've explored going beyond these ones, but I'm
Uh-huh.
fairly sure. Why do I think this one does it? Um, Going back to my reference material. But I'm fairly sure preset, because it's not WP preset, it's WP something, not preset. At the top of my I will get the
You'll
materials
figure
out
that
rather
out.
than you
Okay.
watching me Google, because it's not spectators
No.
watching someone Google.
Yeah. That'd
But
be a
you
good
can.
goal.
So worst case, you can do something like this. Basically, is what you do,
Okay.
which is like we can do literal CSS basically.
Okay.
So worst case, we put in CSS, but I'm fairly sure it's like WP, and then you pull in the variable.
Okay.
Um, yeah, because look, this is like a styles element, so you're referring to the thing in there. So you're already referring to the thing in the thing. Okay. Confusing. I think it's actually a
Inception.
WP preset, but it's
A little different.
yeah, it's something about yeah, I will find it. Um, because you used to in the oldie days before theme.json, this is what you would put in your SAS file to call in their error codes, or to call in like the a white basically,
Okay.
or to call in the error code. So if ever I wanted in a plugin or anything to call in the error codes colors, I would do like WP orange or
Okay.
Gutenberg orange or whatever, and then you'd be able to pull in the variable of orange. So if you
Okay.
have, let me try and is this a Gutenberg folder? Is it going to show me the Gutenberg folder? Yes, it is. Thank you. Well, thanks for just showing me the whole folder. Let me try and bring up if this is is this unbuilt? Oh God, this is not going to be helpful. Maybe. Um, component. No, that's not going to help me. There is a file where we have all the declarations, and I think this is a compiled version, which is not going to help me if it's compiled. Oh, thanks. Um, but basically, if it was uncompiled, you can see like the all of these listed, so you'd be able to
Okay.
see the names basically and be able to pull them through. That's kind of what you'd be able to do. Which is the way that you can pull them through even in your plugin or anything that you want to do, which is super handy. And you can even do like the is it in very parts? No, it's not. Thank you. I think this, yeah, this is compiled version. Um,
No
it's a
worries.
way that you can pull in, so you can pull in like the sizing, the padding, everything, and yeah, it's kind of a handy way of like I want the Gutenberg blue or I want the core blue, and then
Gotcha. Gotcha.
long story long.
No.
So that's kind of where I am now. It's
Perfect.
not. It's a lot of the like the rocks, I
Yeah.
guess, put in place, which is what kind of like I think day one was going to be. Um, Next time, what I'd like to focus on is probably patterns and then any customization we want to change.
Okay.
I'm going to commit what I've got. I'm going to share the links on the colors.
Yes.
Trying to think what else kind of you can see that you're like, oh, if you could change this, if you could change this.
I'm gonna revisit my color palette and make sure that it's what
Yeah,
we want to go for.
That orange, the only thing I was a bit cautious of was the link color. So I put
Right.
the orange on hover, but then it kind of doesn't look super like a
Too
link.
pale. Yeah.
Yeah, and also on a color, like it has got an underline, but on a
Mhm.
the color isn't kind of strong. So yeah, I don't know. And I'm also, if it's like the default theme for you, I can
Yeah,
see it working, but maybe you want, I hate to say, more boring from a color
I know.
palette perspective.
More
I know.
colorful.
I'm like, yeah, and I love that, but also it depends on what you're trying to do for the default.
Yeah, I think
Um,
it needs to change. I think my original vision was like, let's make Memberlite a block theme, but I think it's kind of evolving into like a very crisp, professional, expert creator,
mm,
blogger, course creator, video creator kind of thing. So I think
mm,
we can, I can rethink that palette
mhm,
and it
mhm.
would be
And
stronger if it was simpler.
you have
Yeah.
so much foundation here to be able to do that
Yeah.
though, hopefully.
Yeah. It shouldn't
Um,
be complicated to do. Yeah.
no, no, and pulling through. You could even have 2 different bases, which could kinda give you that, because
Yeah,
this
we
is
kinda
one.
use this, like, blue gray that's really soft, and I think that would be a good
Mm,
one to mix with the gradient also to do, like, a
yeah,
blue gray to
yeah.
pinkish kind of really stripe
So
like.
with your name, you've gotta have a green style.
Yeah, funny.
You you do, but you do. It's like,
Yeah,
have a show me the green style. But it's definitely like an easier way of doing it with, so when we do the styles, we also have some things will show a lot, some things won't show a lot. So, if you look at some of these, like Onyx, it doesn't have
mhm,
all, so it doesn't have the patterns, but it has different palettes. So Onyx is a
okay,
really good example of what you were saying, whereas it just changes the palette, so it kind of just flips them, the
mhm,
palettes. Um, so it flips the base with the contrast, so that it's got the different ones.
and it's
Um,
just adding it's just, replacing but not taking away with those missing properties in that. It's like, use everything
yes,
from C, but except these are different. That's how those
yeah,
work. Okay,
but it's important with something like Onyx, which in 2024, because it's a dark theme, you then need different gradients and duotones
okay.
to go with that, because mono would be a light version, otherwise
It
then
would
it gets,
shine out. You want it to just be
yeah.
more like
So a good
black on
example of
black.
that, which we might decide to do, is have a sepia, which can actually be super beautiful. So we could have a sepia duotone. Those can be beautiful if you're done correctly. So in your theme, you'd have like a more of a papery look, and then that theme, and then you'd have the sepia duotone to reflect that. So I always try and like say, if you are going to have the style, think of every one of your foundation elements changing a little bit. That doesn't mean like your layout, your patterns, no, 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 but more
Yeah.
like your foundation elements. You don't need to worry about your steps. You don't need to worry, but you have so much to play around with when with the gradients, so much to play around with, they're not going to go away, but you have the ability like ice here. They've got some different font sizes because that one has a different font change, but not all of them have, and it's got different palettes, and it's got a much smaller palette, that one. So just kind of like you don't have everything doesn't have, and that I think that was only got gradients, the duotones don't change. So it's just each theme's going to be each style is kind of its own theme in that sense as well. But
And
just
it's
kind of
good that they
thinking,
change a lot. It's not just like, oh, like that's not a different style. I could have just changed the primary color from blue to red. Boring. Like they
yeah,
really, I think in 2024 they feel very distinct,
yes, and that's.
surprisingly distinct. Yeah.
And I definitely noticed that if you look at, was it 2023, when you change them over, they're like, "Meh, they're okay," but this one's like the most different, right? This is
Yeah.
2023, but you can
Probably because it
see
does
how,
that transformation on the featured image, like introducing something.
yeah, but they still feel like, "Meh," and then you're totally right. As soon as you go into like, yep. There's so many things I apparently my brain wants to be connected with different things when I go and do them. I love how like I'm learning where things should be and then they're not. That appears to be what my brain's trying to do with things.
Mm.
So this one I actually really like the background on
Yeah.
Ember because it just And Fossil I find a bit dark. I think it's almost too dark, even though I do like that dark. But mint is
Yeah,
kind of nice.
that's nice.
And then ice
Maybe
is
that's what we
lovely.
need, one like mint with the money, like a pale green
Yeah,
background. Yeah,
shimmy with red buttons. But what I love about mint is this in the middle.
that's
Like,
pretty. We
yeah,
need a pattern
we
like
can.
that. That's like a testimonial kind of call out
Yeah,
thing.
and I know you've got kind of like the thing, but thinking about how can you do things like this,
Mhm.
styling around, just adding some of those borders around things. That one's very excitable. Um, but I actually really like the gradient on that. I think it's really nice. I think that's just color accessible. I
Yeah, that's
that I find a bit
borderline.
uh
It probably
yeah.
passes, but
Yeah, larger, but then again, this is so different.
that's okay.
Um, but yeah, this background just is so easy to look at. That button's not very easy to look at. Oh,
The
um,
red, yeah.
but things like this, think of those kind of color combinations. I mean, these are quite out there from a color combination perspective, but thinking about how we can kind of do that with some of maybe that orange becomes like a rust color. So it becomes like a peachy rust accent could work for you rather than
How are
being
they
like
doing the, asterisk there? Is it really just an asterisk character, or do they
yeah,
load some
oh, no,
icons?
they've got this where is it?
Oh, with
It's with
asterisk is a block
yeah, so
style.
it's with
Yeah.
actually it's a style. This is really curious to break down. So they've got this and it's where is it?
Mhm.
It's,
Like a poke.
so it's with check mark, with actual it's this
Okay.
basically.
Oh,
It's
okay.
got a full on clip path basically.
Wow.
Yeah, I know.
I'm like, there's a character called an asterisk, but I guess you can't easily like string
Yeah,
content before here.
but it shows how you can take, like, a block style
Mhm.
and so what you were
Do a
saying about
ton.
the block quote, you
Mhm.
could do something like that with your fancy block quote if you
Oh,
wanted to put it in.
yeah. Rather than doing like an icon font, we can string in front of
Yeah,
it like a
yeah, so you could do something like that and have your blocks, your quotes in there and bring them through,
mhm.
which is kinda nice. They've also got this one, for check marks and for arrows, which I think is quite funky as well. So, again, 2024 is one of those things where you're like, "Oh, how are you?"
There was
And
actually
before
this is
it
actually interesting. I'm gonna dig up this old CSS hack I found that does like amorphous blobs kind of with, and they're like
oh,
gradient and clipped, but like when you look at any like SaaS website, they have their screenshots, but like behind it is this kind of like color
mm,
blob, thing.
yeah.
That would be a full block style, like, the background is a blob,
You can do
and then you can set the
some
color of it.
blobbing using, the cover and some gradient shifts because
Okay.
I did, um a little bit using some backgrounds and transparencies, because you can do some opacities and you can do some positioning, but it's not an
Like
exact
layers.
science.
Okay. I'm sure this
It
one wasn't
doesn't
either.
yeah, it's more if you want an exact science. So I did, what was it now? So I did I can never spell my own site. That's super exciting. So I did some like this.
Oh, neat. Yeah, that is like a blob. That's cool.
Yeah. But it randomly disappears, randomly
Ah!
appears, and depending on whether it's been updated, like Gutenberg or not, and different things like. So my whole goal with doing this site was, back in the day, there used to be this thing of having art directed blog posts. So I just wanted each blog post to be able to be art directive, as and when I write like
Mhm.
one every couple of months. So
Yeah,
that was my goal to be able to do that, just if I ever wanted to do anything creative. But yeah, it was but now because we've got the grid block, which is coming in next couple of releases, that will stop us because at the moment, if you look at a lot of how this is achieved, it's horrendously achieved using this, which this is just not good. I
yeah,
mean, it works, but it's just not good.
yeah.
What we'll be able to do is is use the grid block rather than having to use the grid block as a grid block. So, um, yes,
Nice.
we stop abusing things. So
We're trying to be
yeah,
better than the Elementors with all the divs and divs and divs and divs and divs and
Yeah, yeah, and
no
yes, as
shade,
long as
but
no, as long as we don't look at this, you know.
close your eyes. Look at that.
It is when you look at that and then you go, "Oh,
Yeah,
no, I just written." But yeah, that is what we have today, which is
perfect.
quite a lot. I
Yeah.
did the naughty, which is just put it all through straight into how do I stop sharing?
I think we just
Um,
keep committing to dev. It's fine.
okay, I'm happy to do some PRs as
Yeah.
well though, because I feel like
No
the
one's gonna
gods of
be
dev
reviewing
will
unless you
start
really
swearing
want
at me
to.
otherwise.
No.
Um,
Until I say a first commit release, I'm fine with push to devs.
okay.
Yeah.
I think if there's an exact ticket, I will do PR as well. But this morning I
Okay.
was just like, I literally started it early UK time because I was just like, rah, ah. And while I was roaring, I was like, okay, I'm just going to push it. I mean, because it just made sense. But
Yeah.
you have got, although the first one's just like, dum,
Yeah.
you have got some trace, some semblance going through, hopefully.
Okay.
And at least like we've got the basis, and then we do the patterns refinement, and then start working out how it fits in with it. I still have not. Every time I try and import, it doesn't work. It says it also is asking me for different passwords, so I don't think locally the password has worked. But
Okay.
I have the Insta site I can try. I
Good.
haven't tried it yet, but I
Okay.
will try the Insta site. So
Cool.
it's not a today problem
No.
because I just wanted to.
Yeah.
And then next time, do you want to stream
Yeah, I'd love
as
to.
well? Yes, cool. If that sounds good. So hopefully, like you've got a boost today.
Yeah.
So
I've got a week. I'm not gonna change a ton in it. I might change a few little things just to like bring some like the colors in and then,
even if you just
travel
left me a
some.
load of tickets, that is absolutely
Okay.
fine as well, and I can work through them.
Perfect. Perfect.
It is there for you either to work on or to leave me some tickets, and then what I'll probably do is check it
Okay.
occasionally, and then, I'll definitely check it by the end of the week and be like, "Okay, pull it down," and
Yeah.
then, uh, over the next week, because 'cause we're not doing next week, we're doing the week after, and
Yeah.
then I'll
We're all
just see
16 weeks.
yeah. But let's just kind of think about the patterns. If you just sort of we have, like, time for you to sketch them, and then let's think
Yeah.
about, like, how they are made
Okay.
with all the styling that you've got, but hopefully
But
we
even I
don't get
might be
stuck.
able maybe I can build them in the Insta site
You're
roughly
welcome to. Yeah,
and
you're welcome
then
to, and then we can pull them out. We've
pull them
already
out.
you've got all the structure for everything as well now.
Okay.
I also put a git ignore because it was driving me loopy with my
Yeah.
DST.
It's fine.
So
Yeah. I know.
you've got
The DS store file. What in heck? Why does it always create itself? Yeah, fine
you
if I
think
create
in like
yeah,
2024 we'd have solved that problem.
would
That
solve
feels
the
like one of the
problem.
problems we
I
should have
know.
solved by now.
I'm sorry.
But yeah, it was super fun just plowing on and looking between the two themes. I think the big one next time is also to identify what we left in member that we want to bring through, because
Okay.
there's probably some stuff that I haven't brought through from the styling perspective. So, and then what isn't listed over this next like 10 days or so, what isn't listed in issues? Is there
Okay.
some because I was looking today and there's like some fun, awesome stuff. There's like some very particular styling on some comments. There's some very particular styling on some background settings. And I'm not
Mhm.
putting that through. So do you want that put
Okay.
through or do you not want
Okay.
that coming through? And just making sure that yes, you're doing a new theme, but is there anything
Yeah.
you don't
Want
want
to
to
let go
move?
of yet.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And then,
I think there's a lot of breadcrumb stuff, and I don't know, that's like a thing that, like, either poor tackles or what do we do or, um,
so
there's a lot of
going to get
breadcrumb
in
logic.
there.
Okay,
Um, Templates are gonna be happening, and then so there's 2 things happening in navigation: templates, for navigation and, Justin Tadlock tweeted I think overnight or over the weekend. Uh, there's also blocks in the navigation block, which
okay.
means you could create a custom, technically, mega menu
Oh my gosh, yeah.
if you hate yourself, I don't know, block.
People
Um,
love those.
uh, uh or if you're every agency in the world that gets asked it for every budget, and then you, um, flippancy, but it's just a reality. We need one, right? And you could put that in it. So I think the next couple of iterations of navigation block are pretty much going to make it useful for most people. Um, my concern with it is whether it is useful today or not for you and how much
Okay.
like the defaults. So yeah, and then how we set that up because we have to put the default ids and all those kind of things. But that's something we'd like be thinking about when we do the template parts
Okay.
because we need to do a header and a footer and the post meta and all those kind of things as well. So, but I wouldn't advise that we create a custom block navigation
Okay.
mega menu
Yeah.
today. But that might be something like a membership navigation block might be something in a couple of like Q3. If
Yeah.
there is a custom block, that might be something that you want to explore. If there's a particular, well, there probably is a particular block that really is needed by navigate member sites or something like that. I can see a lot of specific use sites needing a specific navigation and
Yeah.
not being able to use the actual navigation system for a very long time.
Doing that currently. Yeah. No. Happy
So
that
being
it
able to have,
changes.
yeah, well, the fact that they're adding the ability to put to put blocks in it means they're just going to make it extendable, which I think is the best you can do. I think if it's
Yeah.
just super extendable, then it doesn't matter what they do with it. It just means that you can just put whatever you want in it. So yeah.
Nice.
But by default, it's very light. That's the word
Yeah.
I'm using. It, even
That's a
half the
good word.
time, I've noticed it doesn't always seem to hold the defaults for me. That's also some of
Okay.
the problems with it. So we can just explore that. And then the last session, we're going to be finding out where the bugs are with some of that, I think. I'm also going to, over the next couple of days, really try and dig into the short codes for myself as well.
Okay.
I'm trying to work out, at the moment, the fact is you cannot style them in Starbuck. That
Yeah.
doesn't exist.
Okay.
So if that doesn't exist, I've created an assets folder with CSS in it currently for us. I think that is our best solution today. We
Yeah.
do have a functions.php. As much as I didn't want one, I've given you one.
Yeah.
I think let's see these. I don't know if this translates from England, but training wheels.
Yeah.
Or okay, let's see them as that. The functions.php and the CSS file. Maybe we then decide what goes in your plugin. But I think with the state of everything today, one, I think people are going to understand it easier. It's going to make easier development
Yeah.
um, than the companion plugin and do everything. As much as I would love
Yeah.
to do that.
I know. We can always pull it, it's okay to pull it later, like you said, but we're being intentional every
Yeah.
time we use those files that we considered every other option we had available to us. And this was
Yeah.
our, the route we had to take. And I think that's fair.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of just gonna settle. There's a
Mhm.
lot, there's an intrinsic design and a classic, Haul-away hangout. Those 2 words
Mhm.
together, I constantly have problems with.
There's a conflict
Um,
there.
this month, and
Okay.
then there's also probably gonna be lots of classic discussions, I think, because, people are suddenly doing it and going, this doesn't work. This
Yeah.
doesn't work." Um and it doesn't beyond just doing a blog. Sidebar doesn't. So I also saw that you've got a sidebar. So we need to have a discussion about how do we do a sidebar template part as well.
Okay.
My current recommendation would be exactly how 2024 does it with a column
Yeah.
for now. But let's kind of look at that like as our layout and our templates. So next time if we do templates and we do patterns, let's really kind of dig into how do we do like do we have a one with a sidebar, one without a sidebar, and how are we going to look at those? And I think having those options for people is where this scene becomes really interesting for them
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah.
Mm.
I think they're not,
So
sidebars aren't disappearing.
cool. It was super fun. I
Yeah.
got to hang out in theme.json all day. It was super fun.
Thanks for watching, everybody. Visit cashflowtheme.com to get links to the repository, links to Tammie's and my Twitters, and any other information you want just to follow along the development of this classic to block theme migration.